Hey everybody, Tim Harris. Thanks for coming back. I hope you've enjoyed this four-part video series. This is part 4, sales. And think of it as if you're at a casino. This is the cash out, right? You've got your slips and you got it in your chips and you need to go get your cash. So sales is important. So many people I meet do a 90% great job and then they slack off on the sales part and then they wonder why they don't make any money. So today we're here to talk about the 3 P's of real estate investing and sales. That's pricing, product, and presentation. And what I want to do is teach you how the 3 go together and give you some tips and tricks and hopefully help you make more money on your next project. So let's get started. We're going to start off with pricing. And we're going to use an example of $150,000, $140,000, and $160,000. And I'm using these examples because it was on a house recently that I renovated and was reselling. Now, I had comparables that recommended, depending how you looked at them, could recommend either 160, 140, or 150. Now, this is the first P. Pricing. Now, depending on which one I choose, on this next column can help me get to one of these levels. This next column, product. So when I was analyzing the comparables, some things started to stick out to me, and I'll show you what it is. Hardwood floors, clean, pool. These are the 3 major differences in these 3 sold comps I had. They all had granite, G-R-A-N, granite, and they all had stainless steel appliances in the kitchen. So, my house did not have a pool. So, I really can't, and this is just where it's so important to pay attention to dollar per square foot and why something sold for that much and not just, hey, I saw a comp that was this much and that's what we want to go for. Everyone talks about dollar per square foot, and to me that just doesn't matter. You really have to make sure you've got apples to apples. So, I'm not going to put a pool in my house, right? Because it's only going to get me about $10,000 more, but it's going to cost me $40 or $50. It just doesn't make sense. Now, hardwood floors. This one didn't have hardwood floors, the one that went in the low 140s. But it was clean, it was freshly remodeled and updated. I want to say that it had, it was like ceramic, it was a real nice tile through, it was a solid surface floor in the living areas, but not hardwood floors. This one had nice, beautiful hardwood floors. So this is something that I can do, because on most of my renovation projects, I'm removing all the flooring anyway. So this is really a difference for me, between $3 and $7 a foot. So it's about a $4 per foot difference. So on a 1,200 square foot house, you're not talking about $10,000. You're talking about $4,600. So you're able to, or $4,800. So you're able to double your money in essence by putting in these hardwood floors. And this house, this 150, had the absolute lowest days on the market. See, me personally, I always choose to be right in the middle of the price point. I don't like to be on the bottom end, and I don't like to be on the top end. I always like to be right in the middle. So now let's talk about staging. Okay, so staging a house is when you take a vacant remodeled property and you put furniture in it. And it doesn't always have to be furniture. It can be kitchen towels on the kitchen cabinets, dishes in the cabinets, bath towels on the towel rods in the bathroom, shower curtains, that type of thing. So a lot of people always ask me, Tim, do you stage your houses? And the answer is yes. Every house I stage. And I highly recommend that you don't go into it as the amateur home stager. I recommend you hire a home staging company. And I have several that I can recommend. So again, type of questions down below. Tell me where you're at, and I can kind of point you in the right direction there. But you really need to stage the property, because when you stage it, what you're going to do, and there's some interesting stats out there, and if you ask me down below, I'll give you some links. There's some interesting stats out there that suggest that you can reduce your days on the market in half, if not even to a third of the time, by staging the home. Because what happens is when people walk in, they feel at home. It's kind of like the psychological trick of putting an air freshener, a plug-in air freshener, in the outlet closest to the front door. So when they walk in, they're hit with a fresh smell. Always pay attention to the outside of the house. The same way it's important to stage the inside, the outside of the home is very important. Curb appeal is one of those things that I've always told people that when a client pulls up in front of the house, they know whether or not they would live in that home. Right? I mean, so when you're on the street, driving down the neighborhood, you know whether or not you would live in the neighborhood. You pull up in front of the house, and you know whether or not you would live in that house. From the front door on is a validation of a decision that you made from the street. If you pull up in front of an ugly house, something that just looks like it needs a paint job, and the yard may not be nicely manicured, and the flower beds could use some work, your first impression is there's something wrong with this home. And what happens is, psychologically, people spend the rest of their time inside the house looking for problems instead of looking at what they like. Because they're subconsciously, when they pulled up in front of the house, they decided that this home's not for me. Okay, so we've talked a lot about pricing and product. But the third P is probably the most important P, and that's presentation. You need to make sure that you're working with professionals in all phases of this business and this industry. And one of the things that I highly recommend to you, unless you yourself are a realtor, I highly recommend that you list the property at a full rate with a local realtor. Someone that is experienced in handling investment properties, someone that is experienced in selling vacant properties, if it's a vacant home that you're trying to sell, and someone that understands and is aligned with you with regards to your objectives. Because what you can't do is go to a realtor and say, I would like to get $160 for this home, and then just be told, okay, no problem. Because that realtor may not understand where you're coming from, that this is a profit decision. This isn't emotional, and that the quicker you get your number, even if the realtor says, look, that number's $155, you can go for this, but you're probably not going to get it. Because what happens is, if you overprice, if you're at $160 in the same market where I did my project we were just talking about, and I went at $150 because me and my realtor and I both did a little bit more research than you and your realtor. Well, guess what? When Brian goes into that neighborhood looking at houses, even if he thinks, if his realtor says, hey, we can probably get them to come down, who are they going to try to get to come down first? The guy at 160 or the guy at 150? You're going to make your offer here, because if you offer me $2,500 less, I'll probably take it. Whereas if you would have to get this one for $12,500 less. So the point is, you need good advice going in. And especially if you're new and you're watching this video, I highly recommend that you hire a well-trained, experienced realtor to list your property. I recommend you stay away from flat fee, do-it-yourself services, not because those are bad services, but because they're limited services. So some of the negotiation and help is limited just because you're telling that agent that you don't want to pay for what they can do. So I recommend you pay full rate, and you can almost count on your property selling quicker and for more. So that's sales in a nutshell. I hope you've enjoyed this video series. We're going to send you another email in a day or two with a special offer about the upcoming Ugly House Seminar in your area. So thank you for your time. Again, if you have questions, just type them below, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.